I want to kind of segue into a kind of subtopic regarding that because Chicago reported 797 homicides in 2021, the most of any U.S. city. It's the highest in 25 years. So how has that affected businesses? Because it seems like you said that you want police to focus on combating crime rather than enforcing these COVID mandates. What's the reaction been like from businesses and constituents?
So businesses and constituents alike are fed up with the lack of prosecution, the revolving door that Kim Fox in Cook County has been operating in, and she's emptied the jails. She doesn't keep criminals in jail. It puts a tremendous stress on our police departments and our neighboring counties' police departments. And we've done a great job being proactive here in our town and kept crime actually at its lowest level in 27 years. But those are crimes against people, those are index crimes, but we've been taking a gun off the street every 4 to 5 days, which is a record by, 100 times more than we normally take off the street. And we've been doing that because we've been very proactive about it. Unfortunately, those guns haven't been used in another crime because we've done that. But 90% of those people with those guns are out on bail or previous violent criminals that have these guns, and there's just nothing being done about it, nothing keeping them locked up and keeping our constituents safe.
And switching gears, other suburbs throughout the country have also taken the same steps that you have in standing up against these COVID-19 vaccine mandates and have taken the issue to court. You've previously done the same, but the Democratic Party of Illinois Executive Director Abby Witt called you a COVID bully, saying you wasted tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money on what she called a frivolous lawsuit fighting against the most basic COVID precautions. What do you have to say to that?
Well, she's absolutely misinformed, and she clearly doesn't understand how money works, which is not unusual for the head of the Democratic Party in Illinois. Back when we filed our lawsuit was specifically to get gyms and restaurants open because even back then they were being targeted and they were being closed while other businesses were allowed to stay open. We have a lot of restaurants, we have a lot of gyms. So we sued temporary restraining orders to get those open. So did a half a dozen other places throughout the state. By the time our TRO was heard 6 weeks later, the restaurants and gyms had been open due to this pressure. So of course the TRO was not upheld. And then we dropped the lawsuit because it did its job, which was it forced the governor's hands and it forced him to open up gyms and open up restaurants. And over the course of that month that it was opened earlier, over $1 million in revenue relative to, I believe, $60,000 for the lawsuit. I think that's a pretty good trade-off. I wish the Democratic Party understood that math, that $1 million in versus 60,000 out is a good thing.
And you've recently held special meetings. What have you heard from your constituents regarding some of the problems they would like to see combated in Orland Park or elsewhere?
So here in Orland Park, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing with COVID in particular and crime is, we're making our children bear the brunt of this. These things, whether it's closing schools, and now the unions are pushing for that again. Kids need to be in school. Kids need to be playing their sports. They need to be playing sports without masks covering their face so they can breathe. And we continue to target children for a disease that really has very little impact on them. It has a lower mortality rate than the flu. And obviously suicides, I think, are the second leading cause of death between 10 and 19 years old. And that's over 3,000 a year relative to a couple hundred COVID deaths, which are very unfortunate. But again, that's with COVID, as we've heard Anthony Fauci recently say that these hospitalizations they're tested after they get there. They're not in the hospital because of COVID. So what is the real data on that? But even if you take the worst case scenario, suicide is still 10 times worse, and that's using data that was from several years ago, and we know that suicide attempts are way, way up in the mental health crisis for our children, and the impact on our children will not be known for several decades, and we just have to stop that.
Absolutely. Again, Orland Park's Mayor Keith Pekau, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Stephanie.
Thank you.